Hey, welcome everybody. It's Facts at 5. I am Michael Clark. It is Friday, April 24th, here in rainy, gloomy Waynescott, New York.
And really everywhere else.
This is true.
It's,
They're forecasting rain, but it seems like the next 7 days or
Oh, really?
6 days with the occasional smattering of sunshine in there. But before we get to the stats, I'd like to talk about real quickly that the music entertainment permit, which has always been a very hot item, contentious item on the a lot of people with opinions on that. But of course, formerly owning Crossroads Music, it's near and dear to my heart. And but it's coming up again on May the 21st, depending on what's going on with coronavirus and everything else like that, and whether or not they make any changes to that permit are going to be in effect because of that. But it just leads me to the fact that musicians are amazingly resilient, right? And I mean, all artists are, right? But the musicians in particular, Nancy Atlas actually talked about it on the interview she had with Angela, and about how musicians simply just need to play, right? So if you go on Facebook and you go on Instagram, you constantly see somebody in playing in concert and something like that. Like Jane Hasty has expanded that. Jane Hasty and Peter Weiss, a great duo out here, have expanded. Jane has expanded that into teaching, doing her lessons. She gives lessons on piano, things like that, and doing them on how they use the technology. She's doing it right online. Jack Marshall, guitar player, and he does the same thing. Ray Red, right? He's a singer, songwriter, and does a lot of open mics out here, is doing them almost every day, I think.
Oh, wow.
For like an hour or so. And in between, like each song, he almost throws like a commercial for the takeaways for the restaurants that he's worked in. And then you can cut into their Venmo and different different things where you can actually tip out tip jars and things like that. But I just think it's a great feeling just to tune in there and just kick back with your cell phone on or whatever.
So did they know that you're there, you're watching, or is it they're streaming live and anybody can watch?
Well,
you can react, I think. Right?
Yeah. Well, I think it depends on which one you're using.
Okay.
And how close they are to everything. But they can tell, I think, how many people show up but most of the time they're not making any money, or the money they're making is being donated, which is so typical of musicians.
Right.
But it's such a great thing. It's wonderful to watch that they're actually keeping themselves busy in a creative way and just sharing that information. So I just wanted to touch on that real quick, and now we can get into.
There's an article in the East Hampton Star about that, right? Too.
Yes, and that's basically where that came from.
Right. And that's it. I mean, it is a certain amount of resilience for actors too, and everybody who's trying to figure out how to do this.
Right. Yeah. How do we survive?
How do we survive? Okay. Speaking of that, so today, as of today, there's almost 31,000 confirmed cases in Suffolk County. In East Hampton, we have 141 as of today around 12:30, and in Southampton we have 523. In the United States, we're at an unfortunate milestone, which is over 50,000 people have died in the past. Well, I guess since February 6th, since the first person who was acknowledged.
Wow.
So and it's really 50,900. So we're almost at 51,000 people, which is unbelievable. The total cases so far are at 894. So another unfortunate milestone is coming up, the 900,000 mark. This is just to keep everybody aware that this is not over.
Yeah.
Even if it's, it seems like it's going down a little bit still. In East Hampton, we were at a like 4 per 1,000 people, and now we're at 6.5 per 1,000 people. Southampton is more like 9 cases per 1,000 people. So out here, it's sort of maybe edging up a tiny bit, but we're certainly not out of the woods.
Yeah. I was watching Cuomo before, and he was saying that, it was still, yesterday was down. It was a little bit down, but it's still 400 and something people dying. It's really, really unfortunate.
Right.
But anything else with the statistic?
No. No, I don't think so. I mean, we'll talk about that later, the infection rate. But let's talk about this broadband thing. What's going on with? Because I know that everybody is on Zoom, everybody's at home on the internet. What's going on? What did the FCC do?
Yeah, and when we've noticed it here, working here, and it's something I came upon this morning, that the FCC just yesterday opened up the broadband network. Now, I'm not technically savvy on a lot of these things, but I know that by opening this up, which is actually the biggest thing they've done in almost 20 years, is going to make broadband and Wi-Fi available to more people, to a broader group of people, and it just increases it to a point where we're not going to be able, now, because to what you said, so many people being on the network now, it's slow and dragging, and everybody's pulling their hair out about it. But by opening it up, it alleviates some of that congestion in the network, and it also leads to greater innovation. They think that it will lead to greater innovation in the future because through teaching and doing things differently. Like imagine yourself, rather than going shopping. Like, we don't know what the new norm is going to be, right? We have no idea. But imagine shopping and sitting on your couch in your pajamas, eating Oreo cookies.
What, are you taking pictures of me?
and you put on
gluten-free Oreo cookies.
Yeah, right. And you put on your virtual thing and your virtual glasses, and you're going up and down the aisles with your virtual glasses on, and that's not so far removed. That you're walking down the aisles of the store, and you're choosing.
I could go for that right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay with me.
That would be fantastic.
I don't need to leave my house.
Yesterday I tried to go to the grocery store for once, and I got there, I won't say which one it was, but there was a line out the door.
Okay.
And I was like, not gonna happen. When I went, I just was like, I can do without my Oreos that apparently I'm having. Well, I think that's really great, and it's also really important because so many kids, it levels the playing field for so many kids who might not have great Wi-Fi at home, as opposed to kids who have more means, and so they have great Wi-Fi and they can have great online learning. Yeah. So that's fantastic.
And it was a unanimous decision to open this up. Like I said, it was the biggest thing they've ever done in 20 years. And that, they're thinking about and they're talking about doing things like, having the school, rather than the kids coming in, for example, the school buses, they're bringing the school buses out and they're parking them in parking lots around. And increasing the Wi-Fi in the area for kids in the area that, for example, maybe don't have the Wi-Fi.
So the school bus is a hotspot?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's a roving hotspot.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, things like that. And it's just going to complement the 5G service when they think that it's going to open it up to 6G by the end of this year.
Wow.
Which is really, really amazing. So they said that it's to quote them, it's an important decision. It's the most important decision any commission has made on unlicensed spectrum in almost 25 years, and one that will empower our wireless experiences for the next 20 years.
Wow.
That's a pretty strong statement coming from that group. So it's going to be 1,200 megahertz of unlicensed spectrum available in the 6 gigahertz band, and it's just going to dramatically improve Wi-Fi performance and capacity.
That's amazing. I mean, the amount that you do something because you have to do it.
Right.
I mean, we were talking about that here because now we're having all these remote meetings with LTV. And this is something that we wanted to move toward, but we were never going to do it without something like this happening.
Yeah, we had to be pushed into it.
It has to be pushed because not everybody wants to do it. It's just too much of a pain. And this made everybody. And so now, with the help of Jason Nauer, we've been able to have the remote meetings with the town and have the official town meetings be remote, which is something that wouldn't have happened.
Yes, the Nauer technology is in effect here at LTV. Yes, thank you, Jason.
So something that was just released just an hour ago is that the Food and Drug Administration has issued a warning against using hydroxychloroquine.
Okay.
and chloroquine. Now, these are the anti-malarial drugs that people have been talking about.
Now, is this the one you inject in your system? Or?
No. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
This is the anti-malarial drugs that they've been talking about. Maybe you could use that with a Z-Pak and with other things.
Right.
The Food and Drug Administration now is saying that that it's dangerous,
right,
and that people can actually get really, really hurt. It causes dangerous abnormalities in heart rhythm in coronavirus patients and should be used only in clinical trials. And the other offshoot of that is that this drug, hydroxychloroquine, is used on people who have lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, so it has a use for it, but because it has this off-brand use now, and people are hoarding it because they think it's going to be this thing,
it's impacting
those people
okay,
who have lupus or rheumatoid arthritis can't get their drugs.
Wow.
So that's not cool.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's really, I'm really glad that the Food and Drug Administration, if it's true, they came out and said, don't do this.
Right.
The other big news, of course, of the day was the whole, that the FDA and a couple of, and Lysol had to come out and say, please do not drink Lysol bleach or inject it into your body or other
a
things.
misstatement that was...
Right. And I mean, it's so dangerous because people are going to believe it. They want to try something, and it seems a little bit reasonable maybe to somebody.
Yeah.
And so we have to make sure that people know that that is...
Right.
I don't think anyone...
Do not inject the Lysol or bleach into your system.
No.
You will die.
You will die.
Yes.
But I thought it was interesting that they had to come out and say that. And, you know?
Sure.
So what we were just briefly touching on before was that this was big news yesterday, was that at the beginning of the week, New York said, okay, by the end of the week, we're going to have the results of this antibody test, this random sample they've done. So the random sample they did was 3,000 people, this is page 2, who were tested to determine if their bodies had built up an immunity.
Right.
So 3,000 people were tested. They were randomly selected. They were at grocery stores or something, which some people argue isn't a random selection because they were out and about, et cetera. Sure. However, almost 14% of those people had antibodies for COVID-19.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, surprised everybody.
Yeah.
Now, maybe that's a cluster. Maybe, I mean, we don't know. We're going to have to do bigger sampling. But this was a huge finding yesterday.
It's just data, really, right? I mean...
I'm sorry?
It's just data, really, right?
It is just data, but it's significant, and it's a little bit better than the data that we had because...
It's a starting point.
Right. Mm-hmm. But the data that we had also was testing people who were already presenting with symptoms.
Right, okay.
So that's really skewed.
All right.
But this is a little bit less skewed because it's supposedly, you can take that 3,000 people and multiply it and get the amount,
right,
of people that you think have it. So anyway, that was big news yesterday. I thought that was really, really interesting.
We're going to have Peter Van Scoyoc on in a little while, too,
yes,
right?
And Peter Van Scoyoc is going to be on this afternoon. We're going to talk about the beaches, the non-resident parking, all of that stuff.
Oh, good.
Anything else? I have one good news headline or something that people can do to help out.
No, go ahead.
Tomorrow, ARF is having a pet food drive.
Wow.
There have been lots of food drives. We need a pet food drive.
Sure, why not?
And so you can drop your unopened wet or dry food for pets at at the adoption center at 124 Daniels Hole Road in East Hampton. And that is between 12 and 3 p.m. tomorrow only.
It's funny that they have to actually indicate that it has to be unopened.
Well, sometimes your dog doesn't like the dry food, and you're like, "Oh, bring it over to ARF," and they don't want that.
Wow. All right.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Well, once again, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Sound Aircraft Services, right around the corner here from LTB Studios, and for sponsoring LTB Facts at 5 and just helping support LTB in general. So thanks, guys, and keep the donations coming, and I guess have a good weekend, Morgan, right?
And we're going to talk with Peter now.
Yeah. All right. Have a good day.
Hi, we are at 5:15, and we are Facts at 5:15 with Peter Van Scoyoc, the supervisor for the town of East Hampton. Welcome, Peter.
Hi, Morgan. It's good to be back on the show again.
Thank you I think you're going to be able to come and hopefully for the foreseeable future, join us on Fridays to kind of give a little wrap up for the week. I hope.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. What I'm really looking forward to is to be able to get back into the studio someday, in the not too distant future, but we'll see how that works out.
This is definitely a challenge for everybody, but I think that we're getting there. And we were just talking about this in the show, actually, if it hadn't been for this, we would never have learned how to do all this stuff. So that's good. So how this week, it started off with Montauk, apparently overrun, whatever people say. You guys asked the state park people to come look and monitor.
So about a week or so before, I had made a request, passed it up the chain to the governor's Long Island regional director, and expressed my concerns that as the weather got warmer, that there would be more and more people who wanted to come out to parks and recreate, which makes sense. It's good to get out of the house after being cooped up so long. But that staffing levels they had there were, winter staffing levels, right. And had great concern about that. They, they wrote back to me and said, yes, we are going to put additional staff on, increase hours, and provide more enforcement in the state parks based on my concerns and the concerns raised by the community. Sunday was the first really nice warm day in a while, and Newsday had also put an article in their paper telling everyone on Long Island how wonderful Camp Hero was and a great place to go and recreate. And apparently nobody has anything better to do now than actually read the paper.
When I heard Chief Sarlo say that, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I couldn't believe that it struck me that, an article could make that much of a difference, but it clearly did.
People are paying attention to the media now because there's not a lot else to do after a while. This is something that it's probably a good thing that it happened when it did. We know that there's going to be a great deal of pent up desire to come out to East Hampton and to recreate on our beaches and whatnot. And, that is it's probably the most important reason why our economy is what it is. And it's the foundation and cornerstone of our economy. But, with the sickness still around, it's a bit like having a dinner party invitation out and everybody wants to come and you have to say, look, we should reschedule this for a little bit later because you're sick and we're sick and let's just wait. So
that's why. And today is the first day of the parking, non-resident parking ban is in effect. Now, did that usually happen on Memorial Day weekend?
The 15th of May, we normally start enforcing the beach parking regulations and road ends, and resident or non-resident stickers are required. This year, we're not renewing non-resident stickers at this point, and we're simply extending resident permits. Resident beach parking and driving permits, don't actually expire until the end of this year.
Right.
So if you have an existing one on your vehicle, you're fine, you're good to go. If you bought a new vehicle and hadn't gotten a sticker and you are a resident, you can get one through the mail from the clerk's office.
Oh, great.
I suggest you call the clerk's office first to make sure that you have all the necessary proof of residency. That phone number is 631-324-4142. Please keep in mind that because people aren't able to actually visit in person, that the call volume has increased. And so I ask that you please be patient and courteous to our hardworking staff, and they'll try and assist you as best they can.
What about this summer? I know that there's a task force or there's something involved in what we're going to do this summer with people wanting to go to the beaches.
So we here in East Hampton know that this is an issue that we really need to take a deep dive on and think of all the possible scenarios and permutations in the environment of COVID-19 to keep the public safe and to try and reopen our economy as best we can. And this is not a situation unique to just East Hampton, but it's a region-wide issue. Long Island has hundreds of miles of shoreline. And so I'm on a special working group through the county executive's office of some other mayors and supervisors to discuss how we approach summer this year, the concerns that we each have, the adaptations that we'll need to make. And they range everything from lifeguarding, the hiring of lifeguards, the training of lifeguards in COVID situation. Will we actually be, having guarded beaches? What's the protocol in terms of keeping guards safe? If they do a rescue, how closely can you really have people laying out on the beach? Is there going to be sunbathing? One of the major issues is in order to have a bathing beach open, you must, under Suffolk County health regulations, have comfort stations. How can you maintain public health and safety with public bathrooms in this setting? So there's just a huge range of issues. If we didn't open the beaches, how do you patrol them and police them and ensure that people aren't swimming in unguarded areas and putting themselves at risk? We know that swimming in unlifeguarded areas in the ocean particularly is quite dangerous, and we discourage that heavily. I know the Ryans and all the lifeguards in that program here have worked really hard for so many years to protect public safety and to keep people water safe. So this is going to present additional challenges. We're planning on hiring our full cadre of lifeguards this year. What their actual tasks will be is yet to be determined. Again, there are various different scenarios. They may take on a role of just policing social distancing, helping with that, informing the public to stay apart, or making them part of our beach patrol to report people in the water when they shouldn't be, or to inform the public. Or maybe by some point in summer we'll regain some normalcy. This has been from day one a rapidly changing situation with new guidance and new understanding of the disease daily. And we've worked very hard to adjust and adapt to every single change as it comes forward, and to anticipate what kind of impacts this will continue to have on our economy and on public health concerns.
Has anything like this ever happened before? I mean, it feels to me like was there ever a reason that the parking permits the non-resident permits weren't sold early? Or it seems to me that this whole thing has been everybody improving as much as they can, because it's really unprecedented. Has there anything been sort of like it before?
I can't think of anything like this before, ever. I mean, sure, there was a pandemic in 1918, but this was an incredible different town in 1918. I mean, horse and buggy was, not an uncommon conveyance at that time. And
we can't really look back to 1918 for guidance.
Yeah. I mean, maybe in some ways you can, but we're in a much more complicated world now than 1918. I mean, think about just how complicated, how interdependent and intertwined everything is, all levels of society, supply of materials, whatnot. We all rely on each other much more now than ever before. We're not as self-reliant as we were in 1918, but self-reliance and sustainability are cornerstones of what I've tried to push forward here in East Hampton. And I think this really is a great, pretty strong indication of why it's important that we become a little more self-sufficient maybe than we have been in the past. That's why we've promoted farming. We tried to promote aquaculture. energy sustainability. All of these things reduce the impacts on a locality like ours when we get into a situation like this. In terms of catastrophic impacts, you can look back throughout the history of the town, and primarily they relate to hurricanes. The 38 hurricane
Right. Yeah.
was a truly major impact on Long Island. Again, we weren't as developed as we are now. We didn't have as many residents, but the impacts were severe and lasted for many years.
Right.
Hurricane Sandy obviously had some impacts, although we were spared the brunt of that storm.
Right.
But no, this is uncharted territory for all of us.
And what you were, when I was reading what you, in the Star, what you had said, it just struck me. We're talking about the grid and, were people going to be putting their blankets in a grid pattern? And then what it struck me about it was that something you said, I think, was that, but then what happens to the lifeguards? Because then people are going to be spread out, and you're going to have people the lifeguards who have to see people far away. And it just struck me how it's all so interdependent, and how hard your job is and the people who are in charge. So I just want to say that I think that people are beginning to see what it takes to be an administrator, I hope, because it's not easy. It seems like, oh, we can just have a grid, but then you can't. So anyway, just an aside for mine, but I thank you for that. But is there anything else you want to add in our last couple minutes here for this week, or any thoughts you had about how we're doing, where we're going?
Well, I think being able to communicate with the public effectively and directly as much as possible has always been a challenge. And at this time, maybe it's even more difficult, but, we have been very active in terms of posting on the town website, which is ehamptonny.gov. We have regular updates to a myriad of different points of information, whether it's the streamlined filing for unemployment benefits link that we have, which I encourage people, if you're unemployed, you can find that link on the website. It's much improved over the first several weeks of this crisis. They've set it up so that the system's not so overloaded now. You can find out the latest health advisories and advisements, and you can hear what the town board is diligently working on nearly real time. We also have a Facebook page. Go, visit our Facebook page, like it, and get notifications that way. You can sign up for alerts on the website. We also have an Instagram account. I've been spending as much time as I can really informing the public, but there's so much to do. Right. That I've really been heavily focused on just reacting as quickly as possible, making the arrangements, logistically taking care of the things that need to be taken care of as quickly and efficiently as possible. And that makes the public relations side of it a little more difficult, but we're going to double down and try to do a little bit more of that now. The town board just recently authorized funding to boost posts on Facebook. A lot of people are, getting their news and whatnot through social media. So we're going to try to expand that outreach and interact a little bit more directly on those platforms as well.
And you're on WPPB, you're doing a lot of stuff, and we really appreciate you being here today, especially. Do you have any last words?
Yeah, I am on WLNG every morning, every Monday morning at 8:40, and I've been on WPPB, and of course, Facts at 5. I really appreciate LTV's help in getting out the word and all the terrific work you're doing in informing the public and helping us get through this time. And maybe next week I'll submit that video clip of some recent music. I think music has really helped us. You see all the musicians and talented people all over putting out videos at this time. And
definitely, Peter. Absolutely. You need to join in.
Yeah, I was going to try and get it together for this week, but just couldn't find the time.
Well, next week. There's always next week. And
we hope so.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Morgan. It's
Thank
great to see
you.
you.
Great
Want to
see
wish
you.
everyone well. Stay safe, everybody. Stay home as much as possible, and we will get through this. Thanks.
Excellent. Okay, thanks, Peter. Bye-bye.